Top 10 Spider-Man writers of all time. What's poppin', my fellow believers? It's your boy, the wisest and most powerful of all nerds, Brimeezus, with another Brimeezy Top 10, where I go over a list regarding pop fiction and I put together a top 10 list regarding that particular subject. Funny story, this is actually the first script that I wrote for my YouTube channel, and I wrote this script last year. I also ask you guys to please excuse a little bit of the stuttering and errors because this is an old article. I didn't get to review it or revise it, so just bear with me. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, and whose next blockbuster movie is coming out on July 7th, which is Spider-Man Homecoming. In honor of Spider-Man Homecoming, today we will be going over the top 10 Spider-Man writers to date. Disclaimer, for the sake of time, I won't be able to address every single accomplishment of each writer, because each and every one of them have plenty that I won't get into, and this list is my personal opinion. So if you don't agree, no worries, comment below, let me know what you think. I would love to see your top 10 list and hear which writer that I missed that should be on this list and why. Other than that, I hope this video is informative and that you enjoy yourself while I break it down. Starting off this list, we have Gerry. There were other writers I was considering on taking this spot on the list because I like them more as writers, but I felt that Gerry did for Spider-Man overall was more impactful. In the mid-90s, the longest running saga in the Spider-Man mythos, the Clone Saga. This saga did provide some very amazing moments and added some great content to the overall lore of Spider-Man, including a few plot twists and events that sent a shockwave throughout Peter Parker's life and nearly changed everything that we began to know about Spider-Man. But unfortunately, the saga ended up running much longer than intended, which ended up causing tons of plot holes in the series that was extremely disliked by fans. To the extent most Spider-Man fans wish the whole series or the whole saga never happened, and understandably so. The details themselves are very long and complicated, so I won't go into too much depth in this video, but to focus on the positive of the Clone Saga, although there were several other writers involved over the course of the Clone Saga itself, Gerry is the writer that originally pitched the idea of the story, where Peter Parker, that we've grown to love over the last 30 years, finds out that the dead clone that he had done battle with early on in his career, Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider, is alive and well. Towards the climax of the saga, Peter Parker and Ben Reilly run tests on themselves, and to the surprise of everyone, it is revealed that Peter Parker is actually the clone and Ben Reilly is the original Peter Parker. Peter Parker then relinquishes the mantle of Spider-Man to Ben Reilly to live his normal life and retire from being a superhero. However, this is later changed and it is discovered that the arch nemesis of Spider-Man, the Green Goblin, forged the results of the test that made Peter Parker think that he was the clone, and he eventually returns to the web slinger that we all know and love. For simply pitching that idea that sent the biggest paradigm shift in Spider-Man's career, KAVANAUGH gets the number 10 spot on this list. Roger Stern was a prominent writer back in Marvel in the late 70s and early 80s. During his run, he introduced several iconic characters into the Marvel lore, such as the infamous fan favorite Hobgoblin and the first black female Avenger, Monica Rambeau, aka Miss Marvel. In that time period, he was writing about Peter Parker's transition to independence and adulthood, where Peter Parker was living on his own, going through college, and trying to figure out exactly what he wanted to do with his life regarding his education and future career. Of course, the true Spider-Man fashion, his alter ego as a superhero interrupts his life to the point where Peter Parker eventually drops out of college to focus on being Spider-Man and being a full-time photographer, which for the first time in the Spider-Man series puts him at odds with his Aunt May. By this point in the comic books, Norman Osborn is presumably dead, but then a mysterious character later to be revealed as Roderick Kingsley discovered one of Osborn's labs. Kingsley acquired the Goblin Serum and the Oscorp weaponry to reinstate himself as the Hobgoblin. Studying from the notes of the former Goblin's diary and learning from the mistakes, Kingsley was able to pose more of a serious threat to Spider-Man. So with the emergence of a new Goblin, more cunning and clever than the predecessor Spidey originally faced, leaves Parker in a struggle to uncover the identity of the new Goblin and bring a stop to his terroristic plans. Roger Stern also wrote perhaps the most heartfelt story in the history of Spider-Man series. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 248, it features two stories. First, between a battle between Spider-Man and one of Thor's longtime villains from the Wrecking Crew, and a second, a kid in the hospital named Timothy Harrison, who collects magazines and articles about Spider-Man. And he is also the self-proclaimed biggest Spider-Man fan. Spider-Man goes to visit him in the hospital and then reveals his secret identity to the young Timothy. At the end of the story, when Spider-Man leaves heartbroken, we learn that Timothy is diagnosed with leukemia and only has 4 weeks to live. Coming in at number 8 is Peter David. Peter David is one of my favorite Spider-Man writers and also one of the longest active writers in Marvel. The very first comic book I bought when I first started reading comic books was actually Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue 1, which issued back in 2005. There are many accolades that David has accomplished outside the platform of Spider-Man, such as his 12-year run on The Incredible Hulk and working on TV shows such as Ben 10. But in the realm of Spider-Man alone, Peter David ranks amongst the greatest of all time. Peter David is the creator of Miguel O'Hara, the Spider-Man from the series Spider-Man 2099, one of the most popular Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe, and still writes the series to this very day. In the 90s, the Spider-Man from the main Marvel continuity and the Spider-Man from 2099 had their first encounter. And in 2013, Spider-Man 2099 ended up getting stuck in Peter Parker's timeline, and then had to reinvent a new life for himself as he tried to find his way back into his own time period. And once he finds a method to get back to his own time, he discovers that his own time period, which is now in apocalyptic and dystopian wasteland, is caused by some event that happened in Peter Parker's timeline that he has to somehow find and prevent from happening. And even before creating Spider-Man 2099, Peter David wrote for different Spider-Man titles from the 80s up until the present. Never quite becoming a mainstay writer for any particular Spider-Man series for very long, aside from Spider-Man 2099, but producing stories for the series on a periodic basis. Coming in at number 7, we have Gerry Conway. At the tender age of 16, Gerry Conway already started writing comic books professionally, and by the age of 18, Gerry Conway started writing his own assignments for Marvel comic books. And by 19, he became Stan Lee's first successor in writing the Amazing Spider-Man comic books. During his run, Conway unintentionally laid the groundwork and foundation for aspects of Spider-Man's lore that will remain throughout the character's publication. Conway is accredited with writing the first major Marvel DC crossover, Superman vs. the Amazing Spider-Man, creating the longtime villain of Spider-Man, the Jackal, and also one of the most iconic anti-heroes, the Punisher, both of whom debuted in Amazing Spider-Man issue 129. But most importantly, Conway also wrote one of the most famous comic book stories and arguably the most important Spider-Man issue of all aside from Amazing Fantasy 15, Amazing Spider-Man 121, the death of Gwen Stacy. Gerry Conway, in his 3-year run of Spider-Man with Amazing Spider-Man 149, where Spider-Man and his clone, later known as the Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly, were manipulated into fighting one another. Towards the end of issue 149 of Amazing Spider-Man, the two Spider-Man actually had to work together to stop the plans of the Jackal. The Jackal, who is actually Miles Warren, a college professor to Peter's early love with Stacy, took blood samples of both Peter and Gwen before going to death. The Spider-Man that survives the battle comes to the conclusion that he is the original since he has feelings for Mary Jane, something that transpired after he had his blood drawn by the Jackal. This laid the groundwork for not only the Clone Saga that would turn the lore of Spider-Man on its head in the mid-90s, but produced platforms of future Spider-Man writers to further expand on existing characters. Even if Gerry had no idea at the time, he still had a big impact on Spider-Man as a whole. Stan Lee, the co-creator of Spider-Man, there was no doubt that Stan Lee would make it on this list. Without Stan Lee, we wouldn't have Marvel comic books. We wouldn't be able to enjoy the superheroes that we enjoy today in the various forms of media that we enjoy them in, such as comic books, TV shows, cartoons, and movies. So therefore, we have to honor the greatness that is the marvelous Stan Lee himself. Stan Lee, with the help of several other talented individuals, revolutionized the Silver Age of comic books in the 1960s. During the Silver Age of comic books, Stan Lee began to introduce heroes who had relatable aspects, and many of these characters were inspired by national and global events, polarizing figures, and even the everyday person. During the creation of Spider-Man, Stan Lee took a huge gamble at the time, going against some of the normal conventions of creating a superhero. While most superheroes were grown men with extraordinary lives, wore capes, had sidekicks, and lived in fictional cities, Peter Parker was not even a man when he was first introduced. He was instead a 15-year-old nerd that was severely bullied in high school, that lived in New York, and had a very modest upbringing. He consistently dealt with real-life struggles aside from being an extremely intelligent man for his age. And besides having strong character, there was nothing else exemplary of Peter Parker to speak of. On top of that, spiders, along with other bugs, were unpopular amongst Americans. What Stan Lee did, however, was give Peter Parker a unique set of superpowers, an innovative but practical superhero costume to conceal a secret identity, and named the superhero Spider-Man instead of Spider-Boy. The majority of superheroes stand for truth, justice, and for lack of better words, the American way, but what makes Spider-Man unique is his sense of morality. And also the most famous quote from Spider-Man and maybe all of comic books: with great power comes great responsibility, and a little spike. So, showing how Peter Parker is willing to sacrifice not only his biggest desires, but even the needs of himself in order to protect others and do good as Spider-Man. Combining this with his down-to-earth nature, the result of Stan Lee's approach in creating Spider-Man was astounding and may very well have ended up creating the most popular and beloved superhero in all of comic books. Coming in at number 5 is Tom DeFalco. The legendary Tom DeFalco, New York Times best-selling author and once editor-in-chief with Marvel, among many other things. Tom DeFalco became arguably the most well-respected writer of his time, not to mention also expanding the franchise fivefold and becoming part of the management team. His contribution to the Spider-Man series is so great that I literally cry myself to sleep, not putting him in my top 3, and hopefully I won't suffer in the afterlife for doing so. But anyway, after Roger Stern's run on Amazing Spider-Man, he was superseded by DeFalco and immediately added drastic changes to the Spider-Man series that will remain well-loved and fan-favorite additions until the end of time. First, he gave us the first significant change in Spider-Man's costume, the symbiotic black Spider-Man suit. The symbiotic black Spider-Man suit that Peter Parker acquired from the Secret Wars crossover. A suit that bonded with Peter Parker himself enhances already existing abilities such as super strength and speed, and gave him some additional powers such as organic webbing and camouflage. Characters also debuting in the beginning of DeFalco's first run was the Rose, Puma, Jack-O-Lantern, which was a variant of the Hobgoblin, Black Fox, and Silver Sable. Spider-Man will also do battle with some of Marvel's heaviest hitters, such as the Absorbing Man, Titania, the Silver Surfer villain, and Herald of Galactus, the Fire Lord, and many others. DeFalco also created one of the most popular incarnations of Spider-Man, which was Spider-Girl, who is now known as Spider-Woman after the events of the Spider-Verse, and as well as the Marvel C2 timeline, which takes place around 15 years in the future of the main Marvel continuity. Spider-Girl, aka Mayday Riley Parker, is the daughter of a crippled Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson Parker, who then takes up the mantle as the web-slinging savior of New York City, doing her best to fill, if not succeed, her father's footsteps. The Spider-Girl series is the longest-running solo female star comic book in all of Marvel, and perhaps only second to Wonder Woman in comic books. A unique accomplishment, more than enough to solidify DeFalco on this list. Number 4, David Michelinie, if I'm saying that right. Admittedly, I'm just a little biased when it comes to David Michelinie. I got the opportunity to meet him in person, and he even did me the honor of signing Amazing Spider-Man issue 300, which was the debut of Venom. David Michelinie has done a lot for Marvel. He was the most prominent writer for the Iron Man in the late 70s and early 80s. David Michelinie is the creator of the Scotland Ant-Man and Justin Hammer, the same characters seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but also responsible for one of the greatest and fearsome and iconic supervillains in all comic books, Venom, who had his first appearance again in Amazing Spider-Man issue 300, as well as the more powerful offspring of Venom, Carnage, in issue 364. One of the biggest events in Peter Parker's life that took place during Michelinie's run, that's right, you guessed it or not, Peter Parker tying the knot and getting married to Mary Jane in Amazing Spider-Man Annual 21. One of the many reasons Spider-Man is unique to other superheroes is that he places a much bigger emphasis on keeping his identity secret from the public. That's partially due to Peter Parker having the most extensive rogues gallery in all comic books, and also due to Peter Parker's biggest fear, which is his enemies finding out his true identity and hurting his loved ones. The character that became the first Venom, Eddie Brock, had his life and career ruined by Peter Parker. What made Venom, aka Eddie Brock, so impactful to the Marvel was that he obtained the alien symbiote that was originally bonded with Peter Parker, and not only gained powers comparable to Spider-Man, but also the memories of Peter Parker, as well as when he had the alien symbiote. Not only that, but it was undetectable from Spider-Man's greatest superpower, which was his spider sense, which warns him of impending danger. Furthermore, Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote had a personal vendetta against Peter Parker, and with the knowledge they have on Spider-Man's life, they used characters like Mary Jane as bait to ultimately try to get revenge on Spider-Man and kill him. Having one of the longest runs in the Spider-Man series, which is 1987 through 1994, automatically places him on the greatest list of Spider-Man writers. What David Michelinie does with Spider-Man is... One could argue that Brian Michael Bendis is the single greatest Marvel comic book writer of all time. I'm 100% that either Brian Michael Bendis is plugged in to a supercomputer somewhere in the Marvel headquarters basement, or somehow found a way to clone himself with the sheer amount of stories that this phenom of a writer produces for the industry on a weekly basis. Including the recently finished Civil War II storyline, Brian Michael Bendis' list of comic book accomplishments is so expansive it's almost impossible to enumerate. To such an extent, making a top 10 list of the most notable pieces of Bendis' work is harder than the list that we're currently talking about. But in the realm of just Spider-Man, a list where it pained me to give him 3 instead of first, recognizing the elements that put him on this list is much more possible. Some of Bendis' most notable works includes Marvel's Ultimate Spider-Man, which consisted of 200 issues based off of a Peter Parker from the Ultimate Universe, aka 1610, which was released in the year 2000, giving a modern-day retelling of Peter Parker's origin story that was originally debuted in the early 1960s. In this universe, however, Peter Parker eventually died as a teenager after defeating the Green Goblin and succumbing to the wounds he received from a sniper bullet prior to the battle with the Green Goblin. Peter Parker from the 1610 universe was succeeded by Miles Morales as Spider-Man, another teenage Spider-Man created by Brian Michael Bendis, of black and Latino descent, with slightly different powers and a much different background. You can look that up on my top 10 black superheroes video. This Spider-Man was critically acclaimed and extremely well received amongst Marvel fans, and as well as new readers, being one of the most prominent Spider-Man in the entirety of Marvel's history, despite being one of the newest. Due to being the longest active Spider-Man writer of all time, all that Brian Michael Bendis has done for Spider-Man, in addition to all of the work he currently does for other stories, it places him at number 3 on this list. Lord forgive me for not giving him number 1. J. Michael Straczynski. As I said before, any one of these writers could build a strong case to be listed as number 1 on this list. But for me to put someone ahead of the great Brian Michael Bendis on any list, they are nothing short of heaven sent. Coming in second place is J. Michael Straczynski. Straczynski is a well-versed writer in all sorts of media, from comic books to cartoons and even live-action shows and movies. Some of his other works include the co-writer of the story, the live-action Thor movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, freelance writing for the Twilight series show and comic book, and also known for being one of the most well-liked writers for Spider-Man. As I said before, the Spider-Man fan base is generally split into 2 parts. Those who reject and those who love the Clone Saga. Regardless of what side that you're on, it's irrefutable that the world of Spider-Man needed to be fixed after the wake of the Clone Saga. Straczynski re-established Peter Parker as the mainstay Spider-Man, tripled the sales of Amazing Spider-Man comic book during his 8+ year run. It was actually during Straczynski's run when I started getting into comic books at the age of 12, and it didn't take me long to realize the genius of his work. Michael Straczynski's run saw Spider-Man through an enormous amount of change that were only topped by the writer that I have at number 1 on this list. As I said earlier with Straczynski re-establishing Peter Parker as the main Spider-Man in the Marvel continuity, during this time, Spider-Man found out that his power came from a much deeper source than a radioactive spider. He encountered one of his most deadliest foes, Merlin, was finally discovered as a superhero by his Aunt May, gained organic webbing, officially joined the Avengers as a stable member, died, came back from the dead more powerful than before, with enhanced abilities, obtained the fan favorite Iron Spidey suit, announced his secret identity to the world, and fought on both sides of the first superhuman Civil War. And sold his marriage to the devil to save his Aunt May from death in the One More Day story arc. I'm leaving out 8 million other things just to save room to talk about the number 1 writer on this list, but you get the idea. Freaking J. Straczynski is a freaking icon. He's a genius. I love that guy. Thank you. I pray for you. In order for Spider-Man to maintain his level of continued success and popularity that he has today, calls for nothing short than a prolific and clever writer that is Dan Slott. Dan Slott took up the mantle from recounting Peter Parker from the end of Civil War to the start of the Brand New Day story arc, after the previous mentioned Michael Straczynski storyline, One More Day. I was a big fan of Dan Slott before he began writing Amazing Spider-Man, and I was faithfully reading his other titles that he wrote, which was Avengers Initiatives that came out in the wake of the first Civil War, as well as Mighty Avengers Volume 1. What Dan Slott does in the beginning of Brand New Day is take Peter Parker, who was in his early 30s, married and known to be Spider-Man, and at the height of his physical power, and brings Peter Parker back to his being popular in the 80s, being 25, at his base power, unmarried, unemployed, and down on his luck with almost no sort of stability in his life. Not only is Brand New Day a throwback to the days of Roger Stern and Tom DeFalco's writing of Spider-Man in the 1980s, Dan Slott brought Spider-Man through tons of innovative changes that were never seen throughout the history of the Spider-Man world. And that goes for all facets of Peter Parker's life, from his methods of fighting crime, to his job employment, to even his family matters and love interests. During the course of Slott's run, we we saw Peter Parker's own Aunt May get married to his longtime employer, J. Jameson, father, James Jameson Sr. We've seen Peter Parker go from being jobless to homeless to being employed to continue his science foundation to the start of his own company, and currently becoming one of the richest and most powerful businessmen in the world. When it came to crime fighting and his enemies either became more powerful or adapted to his usual tricks, we saw Peter use more innovative ways to combat his enemies by either improving on the paraphernalia such as his web shooters, developing impact webbing for an example, or for instance, when he temporarily lost his spider sense, he began to train in martial arts to accommodate his superpowered reflexes. Perhaps one of the biggest changes in the entirety of Spider-Man's history was when Peter Parker died for the second time, and instead of a clone of Peter Parker or another spider-powered superhero taking up the mantle of Spider-Man, it was arguably the smartest villain in Marvel, Spider-Man's deadly foe, Dr. Otto Octavius, or Dr. Octopus, that switched consciousness with Peter Parker, getting all of Peter Parker's memories and becoming Spider-Man. Going about Spider-Man and living a civilian life in an entirely different way than Peter Parker ever did. As you can imagine, it's very difficult limiting the accomplishments of any Spider-Man writer, and I could go on and on about the great Dan Slott, but if you're still skeptical about Dan Slott's placement, let me inform you that he is the longest active writer for the Amazing Spider-Man series, the most popular book in the franchise, and is often at the top of the best-selling comic book list on a monthly basis. Anyway, that's my top 10 list for Spider-Man writers. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Please hit that like button, leave a comment below, let me know what you think about this video, what your favorite writers are, and also most importantly, don't forget to subscribe. I will also be doing a giveaway for rare Spider-Man issues on my social media accounts. It's going to be King Camara on every platform. I'll be updating the rare comic books that I'll be giving away. To win an issue of these rare comic books, all you have to do is, one, follow me on any of my social media accounts and share my videos by tagging me in the post. Okay? There'll be plenty of giveaways to go around. Over 20 issues I'll be releasing for the sake of Spider-Man, up until and even after the release of Spider-Man Homecoming. So there'll be plenty of opportunities to win. It's your boy, the wisest and most powerful of all nerds, Brian Muses. I will see you guys soon.